Growing your own tropical jungle-style garden is an amazing way to create a secluded, relaxing oasis of your own. A complete private patch of paradise with big leaves, bold tropical flowers, and just a calming sense of serenity. Now, these are the steps that I recommend you follow to create your own tropical patch of paradise, no matter where you're growing your garden in the world. Tip number one is to think of your background first. So what do I mean when I say think about the background first? Now, before you start planting, you really need to consider what you're going to see behind your plants. And in this bed here, it's the fence and the wall of the shed that are forming the backdrop to this planting. So we have painted it purple before we even started planting, and that dark purple colour pushes the boundary fences back, makes the whole space feel bigger, and it has the added benefit that all of these plants, the lush greens, pop against that purple colour. Now, if you've got something like a brick wall, just clean it up first, make it a nice texture to be that backdrop, because once it's planted, it's going to be really difficult to fix everything behind all of the plants as they grow in. Or perhaps you've got an ugly surface that you want to cover. You can buy things like bamboo screens on rolls. Fix that to the wall and you're going to have a lovely tropical backdrop ready to start growing all of your plants in front of and all over. Tip number two is to plant from big to small. So what do I mean by plant big to small? It's as easy as it sounds. Start by planting your big plants first. So here we've got a Magnolia grandiflora that's going to grow into a small tree. This is going to form the canopy over our jungle tropical style garden. It also acts as a buffer for all of the wind in the space to protect all of the plants below. If you get these big plants in first and get them established, it's going to give you the perfect microclimate to plant all of your more tender tropical style plants below. And so many of them that originate from jungle habitats thrive in shade underneath the canopy of bigger plants like this. Now, you could use a Magnolia grandiflora, you could use something like a loquat tree, which we use in our garden, or bananas. Just find the plants that are the larger plants that are going to suit the climate where you're growing your garden, and make sure you get those in first. Once you've got the big plants in, you can then start to think about the small plants because they're going to benefit from that microclimate that's been created. What do I mean by microclimate? That just means the big plants are going to adjust the light levels in your garden. So they're going to have dappled shade, which is fantastic for these plants. They're going to buffer out the winds, which means that these plants aren't going to get ripped to shreds as the winds are howling around an open garden. They can also help to increase the temperature or decrease the temperature, whichever you're looking for in your garden. So here we've got deciduous trees that come into leaf in summer and bring the temperature down so that I can grow some of these subtropical style plants. In winter, having that canopy above us is protecting the garden from the worst of frosts. It creates a blanket, a thermal blanket over the garden that keeps this part of our garden much warmer than open areas elsewhere, which means we can grow more of these really great tropical style plants. Tip number three is to plant in layers. Be inspired by the rainforest. When planting in layers, we're going to really help to create the perfect tropical garden feel, because in a rainforest, plants have the perfect niche everywhere they grow. So you will find plants that grow at the lowest level, create this lovely foliage cover low down. These plants are great because if you're growing plants in pots, they're going to act as a disguise and it's going to hide all of the pots in the bed. In fact, everything in this bed is growing in pots and you can't see it because all of this lush foliage down here is hiding it. It's a good trick. Make sure you plant in black pots because it will hide them in the shadows and darkness of the undergrowth. From that layer, you go up to the mid layer. You get tall growing begonias, you get your shrubs and things like these giant succulents. They will fill out that level underneath the larger shrubs and trees. When you think about planting in layers, you're going to really succeed at planting a rainforest, tropical looking rainforest inspired garden, because in a rainforest, every single plant has its niche and it will thrive in a specific spot. There don't have to be empty gaps underneath the big trees. If you plant big first to small, then plant in layers, you're going to have this lush, jungly look in your garden. Tip number 4 is to add splashes of colour. When adding a splash of colour, you can use flowers, like we've done here, This is a cold hardy, this will take -5 degrees Celsius, hibiscus relative. So it looks really tropical. This is an abutilon, and they are fantastic plants for adding a splash of colour because they flower for almost 12 months of the year. Or you can use colourful foliage, like I've done here with this Canna Tropicana Black. This dark leaf contrasts against the lush greens really well and adds a bit of drama to the garden. Now you can also do it by using hard landscaping. A lot of people paint structures bright colours to make them pop out against the foliage, and that really adds that tropical look to your garden. And tip number 5 is to think about texture when combining leaves to create that jungle look. Once you've got that splash of colour, you can think about leaf texture. Now, what does texture mean? It's just the art of combining different leaf shapes, sizes, and kind of structures, and it creates interest even without flowers or the pop of colour. So in this bed, we've got the fantastic leaf of Brasseopsis mitis, which has this snowflake leaf held against things like colocages that have this heart-shaped leaf, and then this really graceful willow-like Podocarpus, which is an evergreen. By combining all of the different leaves, it's combining visual interest, and it just adds that look, that appearance of the diversity that you would find in a tropical rainforest. Hopefully these 5 tips have given you some ideas and inspiration to help you transform your own garden into your own unique tropical jungle style patch of paradise. It really is as simple as following these simple guides, and you will find plants and combine plants and add a splash of colour and a bit of drama, and you too will be enjoying your own lush tropical patch of paradise before long. I'd love to see pictures, so go and share them on our social network at growparadise.social, where you can share pictures. There is a global community of people that love this style of plants, this style of gardens. And if you've enjoyed the video, hit subscribe. It really is the easiest way to support the channel. Just like a tropical paradise, it started monsoon rainfall now, so I'm going to go and take some shelter, and I will see you all in the next one.